Oh, we're being live streamed now. No more cursing.
I don't know about that. I'll make no promises.
Let's see. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just saying hello over at YouTube. I am on the road again, so hopefully, with some luck, we won't have any technical difficulties. Let me say hello to the YouTube viewers. We are watching live on YouTube chat, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them there. So we'll look there for questions as well. I will pop out that chat window. With that, I'm going to turn things over to Lee, who is again going to run today's show. He's prepared another awesome topic for today. So Lee, take it away.
All right, we're going to talk about Google versus AI content, but first let's get through our fun stuff here. All right, is Carolyn here?
I am.
Carolyn, how are you?
Hey, Lee, good.
What would you like to confess today?
Well, I confess to having a hard time adjusting to the space, the gap between, let's say, an SEO and a stakeholder being able to understand what an SEO is saying. Like, why does it, so I'm just going to kind of explore some of that. Like, what are the frustrations for me? And what are some of the things I've learned, kind of how to say in a different way?
Ooh, do you want to tease an example, or you're just going to keep us in suspense till Friday?
I think I'll keep you in suspense.
Damn you, Carolyn.
Yeah, I just had a 2-hour phone call about this. And so it's, I'm going to have to invest more time.
So it's going from phone call to Friday topic.
Yeah, it's too soon still.
Yeah, exactly. I can vaguely see it if I squint, but I'm sure it'll come into focus.
That's a cool one. All right, and where can people find the podcast?
You can search for it in Google by its name, Confessions of an SEO. You could click on that link that Ted has graciously created, and or you could pretty much look anywhere where you get your podcasts. You should be able to find it, and it's on Alexa, Amazon Alexa.
Outstanding. Cool. I'll look forward to this one. Clint here. He may not be here.
No, I think he's busy today.
All right, so we will hope that this one comes back soon.
So why don't you start by telling us about our topic? Why this topic? What is the topic?
All right, so let me hit a couple other things real quick, and then we'll jump into it. One, Terry Power and I are doing a little ranking boot camp, a little local boot camp, end of this month in Greensboro, where he lives. Terry, you want to come on and say a couple of words?
It'll be great for the attendees, exciting. You will come away not only having some new weapons in local SEO, but having used them and implemented them and seen results with them. So,
yeah, that's cool. So Terry prepared a very cool little video, which we put up on this page, the rankingbootcamp.com page, where he gave away a little technique that you can get local rankings in 24 to 48 hours. So if nothing else, even if you're not going to come, you should go grab that tidbit before the sales page comes down.
Or better yet, if you're skeptical, go to that video, get the tidbit, get the tip, and prove them wrong. Because that's good feedback.
yeah, implement it. And then when you see the results, think about coming July 30th and seeing what even more you can do with that and others.
Yeah,
Sure.
treat it like an experiment, and that's all Terry and Lee want you to do. That's all they ask of you, is see for yourself, prove it for yourself.
Cool. Then I also have my tested SEO training program. We're starting the next group August 3rd. It's an 8-week training program. We cover all of the tested training and techniques that I have never published. Not every single one that I've never published, but that's the foundation for it. If you go onto the website, you can see case studies of people, not me, of attendees and the things that they've been able to do, the timeframes they've been able to do in. Proud of this work because a lot of what we have here is the core of how the Google algorithm works. And so people are able to generate quick and repeatable results regardless of what Google is doing. And I'm going to see if Carolyn, are you okay talking about your project, or do we want to keep that one under wraps?
Well, no, I mean, I don't have it all written up like a case study, but I'm doing it like a case study.
Right.
I picked a keyword that we're kind of in some ways taught to be scared of, and as an SEO. And so it was a mesothelioma term with search volume, I'm quick to add.
Cost per click in the multi-hundred space.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, following the training in this course, create, site from scratch and creating the content, although, you have many different ways to skin a cat on that one. Right. And launched it. And it initially landed like right in the middle, like it was 50, spot number 50, 51, 49, 51, 41, that kind of thing. And it went up this week quite nicely. And
all right, so you in that space, you've got to have a significant backlink profile, right?
Well, if you consider 2 backlinks significant, then yes.
So you built a site and 2 backlinks, and now you're popping around position 30. You haven't even done all the stuff because you've been busy. You haven't even done all the other
right
fun stuff.
Right.
That's not bad. So, if you want to learn stuff like that, and how to do that repeatedly. I love Carolyn for taking that one on because she wanted to see, for one of the top terms out there, how quickly you could rank and get up to the top. Come and check it out. You can ask anybody on the let's send a case study. You can reach out to any of them and ask them about it. So I'm not showing you my results. I'm just showing you everybody else's.
Yeah, the cool thing about Lee's training is that it's 8 weeks of here's a lesson. I want you to do this homework this week, and I want you to share the results you get from the homework. And so everybody is doing the same thing to their websites and sharing what happens. And so there's all of this collective feedback about what the participants are achieving by doing this training in real time. And it's 8 weeks of progressive steps that shows you exactly what to do and why to do it. And I've just never seen anything like it. And I've been through the course like 3 times now, and people are just killing it with it. It's pretty amazing. I ranked a website the second time through the course. The first time I just tried to digest the material, and the second time I actually tried to rank a website with it. And I was able to take a website from not being indexed to being #1 in Google and Bing in 5 weeks using this methodology. It was just a moderate difficulty keyword. It wasn't a high difficulty keyword, but it was impressive just to see all of the pieces in motion. And so I thought it was pretty cool. I think it's the best training I've seen in my career, honestly.
Thank you. And also in defense of your thing, a lot of people would say because of the particular keyword that you chose was in the SEO realm, you were passing Moz, Ahrefs, all of these, top websites in the space that were, pretty much locked in those first 20 positions. You passed them all.
Yeah, I had to step past some authority brands to do it. So yeah, and it's cool. We've seen your students achieve on a lot of different types of keywords. So it seems like it's a very good technique.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really, really cool for me is I've been able to watch it work across keywords, local and national, on multiple different continents. This works, so it's not just the .com; it's some foreign as well. And I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we have a lot of people that come back and do this 2-3 times. They come back to keep getting more out of it each time. So, that speaks volumes to me. So anyway, if you're interested, test at SEOtraining.com. Now we're going to talk a little bit about AI content. We've seen there's been a little raise in the frequency of mention in a lot of SEO groups about AI content. And it started, I think, with a story that Search Engine Journal ran in April. It was they're looking at an Ask John Mueller, and somebody had asked him about this, and this was his quote. And if you're using machine learning tools to generate your content, it's essentially the same as you're just shuffling words around and looking at synonyms or doing the translation tricks that people used to do. It's still against the webmaster guidelines, so we would consider that to be spam. Google is basically saying AI content is a no-no. And then looking at the discussions that followed this in a lot of different SEO groups, a lot of people are scared. Oh, you're going to get penalized. And some people think that their sites have tanked because of the use of AI content.
I'm like, whoa. Throwing the brakes big time. Because we know that Kyle Roof's Rhinoplasty Plano, Lorem Ipsum websites are still ranking for their cities today. Like he has those Lorem Ipsum tuned websites ranking for multiple cities, and they still rank. So like Google has not solved that. Like that has not been fixed by any algorithm updates to date. And so given that, Google still doesn't even know if your words are in fact words. So isn't it kind of a stretch of the imagination that Google is on to nuances of how your grammar was fabricated?
All of that, those sort of things spun through my head when I first started hearing this, because it's more than just, lorem ipsum, it's even just made up, gibberish words, just strings of characters that are, don't even include vowels, for example. But it's out there and people are responding to it. People are afraid of it. So I thought we'd talk about it a little bit today.
And another interesting facet of this whole AI content thing is people think it takes AI to detect AI, and it doesn't. It takes AI to, generate naturally fluid language and grammar, but it only takes statistics to detect it, because those AI generated grammars have natural quirks. They have statistical flaws that are common in their grammars, and normal human beings wouldn't make those mistakes. So when you find those mistakes in certain quantities, you know that it was the AI that generated it. So when you talk about detecting the AI, you're talking about statistically measuring the mistakes the AI makes. And so there's this concept where people think it takes a really complicated AI to detect it. No, it doesn't. You just need to understand, how the AI is producing content from its models, and then you can statistically detect it. And that has problems too.
Yes, it does. It does. So let's go through this a little bit. So Search Engine Journal, after hearing Mueller's comments, had their own conclusions on this. They said Google's algorithms aren't able to automatically detect content generated by language models such as GPT-3, which is the most common, most commonly used AI generation model out there for content. And then they went on, and I love the confidence of this. If Google detects that content, the web spam team could take action. But they're thinking, it's a low threat. That's kind of their conclusion. And that was in April. And then they got cockier. In May, they wrote this article, the 10 best AI writers and content generators and which ones you should be using for your content. So Search Engine Journal, doesn't believe that Google's doing anything about it. But if you got reviewed and Google looked at it, they could consider that web spam. That's where they landed.
And there's one more important data point here. Google is authoring MUM, which is built on T5, which does content rewriting. They are authoring the next generation content rewriter. And I've seen it. It blows my mind away. I can't wait to play with it. They have working source code for it out on GitHub right now, today.
Mm-hmm.
And there are Google articles on the T5 code rewriting with links to the source code and GitHub. And so that's out there now. And so Google themselves are doing this. So and they're not creating content rewriters to rewrite their own content. I guarantee you Google is not doing this to rewrite their own stuff.
So Ted, in your mind, is this the first time that Google has said don't do something and then done it themselves?
Yeah, they have a long history of do what we say, don't do what we do.
Right. So, if I'm sitting back here and I'm a content creator and hearing about the capabilities of MUM that Google's developing, I'm thinking, okay, Google's facing, challenges for, content and being paid for coming to my site and getting my content and not ranking, all of these sort of things. If Google has a good rewriter, they could just come and basically spin my stuff and answer the questions without using my content. Could they not?
Yeah. And their content rewriting is like a fill in the blank thing. It's like, oh, if there's a missing word in the middle of your summary, we can fill in the gaps. We could say, oh, write 4 words in that missing space, and our AI will write 4 words that fills that gap, that n equals 5 example from the T5 article. So if you've seen that article, you know what I'm talking about. Well, you can take any article on Earth, delete every 6th word, and tell this AI to author 4 words in each of those gaps, and you have a unique article.
Very nice.
So yeah, T5 rewrites content. And so what do they plan to do with that? I have no idea, but it's amazing how well it works.
Very cool. So we're going to just briefly talk about some types of content generators, because everybody looks at anything that creates content is AI, and that's not true. I mean, basically, we'll start with old school spinners, which basically either manually or on a semi-automatic basis, they can replace synonyms. So big, large, huge, enormous, and keep replacing that synonym to generate new content in that way. Now, those have taken a step up. There are paraphrasers out there which can do pretty good automatic synonym replacement and a couple of other things. Basically, I mean, the most popular one that I know people using is Quillbot, but there are some others out there, but they're basically all doing the same thing, which is synonym replacement. And then there's AI type things. There was GPT-2, and now there's GPT-3. Most of the AI writers out there right now are built on top of this. And GPT-3 is basically just a trained model. It scans a certain percentage of the web, learns how people write, and then uses that as information to predict the next word recursively. So, and we'll show you what that means here in a second. But basically, it's using everything that's on the page. So you start it with a little bit of a seed content, and then it continues from there, one word at a time, predicting one word at a time.
Yeah.
So here's an example. Oh, go ahead, Ted.
T5 would be the new one on the list that infers the missing text.
Right.
So that would be the newest one, would be T5.
That one's not out there in common use right now. So there's some other people have built some models as well. But so here's how the basics work. If I started to write a sentence, I drove to the store. The minute that I have it's not looking for drove. It's thinking I'm going to write I'm 9.3% of the time, I've 8.8% of the time, or I have, or I am, or I was. In fact, drove here is the number 287 in the most common terms that would follow I. So it is a very, very low probability of being the next word if I start a sentence with I. Now, given that I wrote I drove, to here is the most common next word. 9.8% of the time, to would be selected to be written here by the AI. But it could have been I drove through, I drove down, I drove I drove a, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we chose the most common one. Now, given that I wrote I drove to, or the AI wrote I drove to, the is the most common next word written. 15% of the time it would choose that, but it could be I drove to a, I drove to my, I drove to new, whatever. I drove, that could be a state like New Mexico, or like San Diego, San Francisco, whatever. So it keeps going like this. I drove to the, what's next? Store. Store is the fourth most common thing that it would have selected. It would have chosen airport, park, or hospital first. Given that I drove to the store, to is a very common word. And then I'm going to buy something. But I could have picked or get or purchase or see something, but that's it. So what happens is every word, it looks back on what's been written thus far and picks out. So it's like a giant probability decision tree. And as soon as it picks a path, a new probability distribution is generated. The dice are rolled and it picks, one of those things. So if you can keep with the same input, you can have an infinite number of outputs come from this, because each word, can generate a whole lot of different possibilities here. Does this make sense? I mean, it's fairly straightforward on how GPT-3 and some of the other AI content generators work. Now, if we extend this a little bit further, so now I'm going to buy groceries, blah, blah, blah. And you can see there's a few things that are kind of fun here. So groceries is the number 57 term after buy. So I'm going to sort of buy, groceries, I would have thought would have been higher, but I'm wrong. And then the period, it also predicts punctuation. Could have been a period, could have been a comma, with a high degree of probability there. Now, given that I have a period there, when, it's the fifth most, it's 5 below the top one, so it's the sixth most popular word. But after I got when I here, after I have when, I is picked 78% of the time. So I went to the store to buy groceries, period. When I is going to be the next word almost all the time. It just keeps doing that thing, it's just like you would if you were predicting the next word, but it's doing it based on the probability distributions that it's learned based on the content that it was trained on. Thoughts on this?
Honestly, it feels like reading a blog.
It does. It does. And I know, a lot of people use these things and so forth, but one of the things to consider is, as this is sort of a probability tree, as soon as the AI makes a choice that is less probable, you've started to move away from your main topic a little bit. So the minute that I drove, whatever it was that I started to write about became less likely to happen, because I've got to drive somewhere, and then when I drive somewhere, there's something based on the somewhere that I drove. It's the same thing when you're trying to write an article about DUI lawyer Los Angeles. As soon as I take a choice that moves me down a different path, I start to move away from the central topic. And so I end up writing about a subtopic, which people complain about a lot. So, can Google detect content written by AI? Yeah, it's really freaking easy to do, because it is a prediction engine. If you know what the model is or what the most common models are, they leave a very clear footprint. This is what you were talking about earlier, Ted. For those that want to play around with it, there are a couple of common ones that I've seen out there. This little AI detector works well. It's trained on GPT-2, but it still works on GPT-3 content. And here's another one that is just for GPT-3. It's specifically trained on that one. So let's take a look at a couple of examples so we can see the detection. So here, I had Article Forge write me a little article on Los Angeles DUI attorney. Ted, your favorite topic. We never go away. So if you've ever been arrested for DUI in Los Angeles, may feel like the end of the world, blah, 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 and etc. The only thing that I did to edit this was right here where our law office, it had the name of an attorney. So I just swapped out our law office there instead of, Ted Kabitis, attorney at law. Now, if you're looking at this, GPT-2 detector says there's a 99.57% chance that this article is fake. It was written by AI. And it was written by Article Forge. So knowing GPT-2, this thing said it's fake. The GPT-3 detector over on this side looks at it, and it has a very different thing. So I'm going to show you a little bit about this one because it's important to understand. Right now, if you see the little key here, words highlighted in green were one of the 10 most likely predictions. So if we go back a couple of screens here, this would be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we keep going down, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if it's one of these words, it's in green, which is why it was green here. Something like this, drove, was not in the top 10, but it was in the top 1,000. So I'll show you what that is. Here, if it's in the top 100, it's in yellow. And if it's in the top 1,000, it's in red. If it goes beyond that, it's in purple. So purple is unusual. So you want more color because green is the most likely color you're going to see with AI written content. By the way, it's also the most likely color you're going to see on human written content as well. So the one on the right is a little bit open to interpretation on whether or not, because it depends on the threshold you pick. And that's one of the things we wouldn't know what Google, if they were choosing to detect it, at what level they're going to say, yeah, that's AI. So you can see that it does that. Here's core SEO software. Pulled a couple of paragraphs off of your page, Ted. You might recognize this. GPT-2 says it's real. It's real. You did not have an AI write that, sir. You wrote that yourself.
I did.
And if you look over here on the right, you see a lot of yellow and red, which is less, and you see some purple in there, which is, way unlikely words that were chosen in this. This is very technical, a lot of stuff, not a lot of green. So when you see this little bar chart here, you see it's got green's always going to be the big one, but you see a lot of this other color here, which says, you know what, that's real. Ted wrote that. So what do you say for yourself, Ted? You feel?
Yeah, it was too cheap to fire up the AI writers.
All right. So, I mean, it's kind of neat to see. So let's go a little bit further and see what else it can detect. There's lorem ipsum. Now, here's what's interesting. GPT-2 says, hey, there's a good chance, 85% chance that's real, meaning AI didn't write this. Well, these are not common terms in AI. They're not common terms at all. But the GPT-3 has a lot of green. This particular, set of green here says those are the most common predicted words after it, because that particular sentence, lorem ipsum dolorsit amet, that thing is everywhere. So it's seen it a lot of places on the web, so it predicts correctly the next stuff. So GPT-3 might say that this was or could have been written by AI. All you have to do is start with the word lorem, and the rest of this would have followed potentially, which I think is kind of cool. So I said, okay, well, if it can detect lorem ipsum, it's patterned, let's scramble the lorem ipsum. And look, this one says, hey, 99.6% real. And now look at this. This is all colored up. GPT-3 says that this wasn't written by AI. Same words, different order. This stuff is important when you think about AI detection. So since they can, it's pretty easy to detect AI content. Are they? I'd say probably not, for several reasons. The first one is I rank with AI content. Run my stuff through these things. They rank well. Tops page 1. Doesn't matter. If it was detectable, the stuff wouldn't be there. Reason 2, it's expensive to process every page. Because when you have to run a word-by-word analysis on trillions of pages, that gets expensive. Is that fair, Ted?
Yeah, it's extremely fair. And I was pointing out this morning in one of the SEO groups that somebody had mentioned that Google's having a hard time processing things and that they've reduced the size of the primary index again. And I offered up some evidence of that because I was agreeing with the statement. And for the keyword games, one of the calibration keywords we often look at on this channel over the years, Google used to have 1,000 search results for games before they'd stop showing results. Then it went down to 600. Then it went down to 5. Then it went down to 3. Now it's down to 189. And guess how many search results Bing has for games?
Don't know.
722.
Right.
So the primary index allocation per keyword, and a significant keyword at that, has gotten very, very small for Google. And that's telling us that they're having a problem handling the amount of documents and the scale of inquiries that they're getting to search through those documents. They're having a hard time handling scale. And so this type of, cost consumption effort, it would have to have a really big payout for Google for them to want to do it. And I just don't see it there either.
Right. I don't. There's a couple of more reasons why I don't think that they are or they were. AI content's average. If you're training a model on, the web or a good chunk of the web, it's going to write what is the most common thing. So that means the output's got to gravitate towards the average. So your DUI lawyer output is going to look like everybody else's DUI lawyer pages. Those things aren't going to rank at the top of the SERPs. They're going to rank in an average position. If they rank at all, they're going to rank in the middle. So I don't see AI content being a problem from Google because it isn't SEO'd content, it's average.
Well, and there's another thing too. You have to wonder about the training set that goes into the content AI writers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing that they train those writers on documents that were well edited and were spell checked and were grammar checked. And so, they got the best training in that training set. So that AI content writing is probably better than the average blog that was being written at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you probably have this thing where if you're actually going to look at the quality of the writing itself, you might actually find that the writing quality itself might be a bit higher on average than a lot of the blog posts that were being churned and burned.
Right. That's true. You have to look at the training set and how it was selected. The other thing is for those that are in the AI writing space, SEOs complain all the time that the software doesn't produce SEO optimized content. That's the thing. They're like, they want something that is written for them. They input a keyword, it writes a perfectly, formatted article that's on topic, not repeating itself in any way, shape, or form, SEO'd so that they can put it on their website and rank on page 1. That just doesn't happen. That's also not what the AI writers were designed to do. The AI writers were designed to write plausibly on a topic. That's it. And they respond to the input data that you give them, which is where they start writing. So, for me, looking at this is more about user error than anything else.
Yeah, and you hit one of my one of my favorite concepts, because while the whole world for the past 3-4 years has been saying quality content, quality content, quality content, I've been saying the problem is the low bar. They've been talking about the high bar but ignoring the low bar, the minimum entry to play the game, which is the plausible content.
Right.
The garbage gets filtered, but the plausible gets in. And so the plausible content is really the minimum effort you need to get into the game and rank. And so that's where we're at now with all of this technology and the tuning games. And so it's always been a plausible content game, and we're seeing that now.
Right. So if they're not doing it now, what if they did? What if they started it and they said, you know what, this AI content is a problem. We got to do something about this. Well, is it easy to defeat the detection? Yeah, it actually is. I played around with a bunch of these things, and I've done this over time just for giggles. And there's 4 methods I'm going to talk about here. One's changing the vocabulary, something I call plot twist, lorem, and misspellings. And we'll just go through each one of them just to see what happens. So I took the DUI article here, and all I did was change the vocabulary on this. So it's like, if you've been arrested, I inserted the word unexpectedly there. And then you go a little bit further, feel like the end of the world, feel like experiencing the end of the world. Just a little bit, adding some better vocabulary in there. And lo and behold, for GPT-2, because I only added 7 words, a couple of these I replaced the word that was there with a better word. So like here, can help you avoid the stress.
My godly,
diminish the stress.
My godly, you could do it all with adverbs.
Yeah, you can. That's the beauty of. So GPT-2 would be fooled by this particular, machination.
It's so stupid. It's funny.
Yeah, it is. So you're looking at what all do you have to do? All right, I did 10 words here. Now let's look at the GPT-3, which is the harder one to beat, and you can see what happens with it. You can see this one is the before. This is the standard. And you can see here, there's more color. You can see it like unexpectedly was not expected. That's a purple sentence. So that's not in the top 1,000. That's, AI is not going to put that there. AI is not going to put that or that or that there. So already I've defeated a lot of this stuff depending on the threshold that's used just by.
All right, you have a technique. All right, you've created a technique to thwart AI content creation detection. Just every 6 to 10 words, throw in a $10 adverb.
Yeah, throw in a good one. That's not hard. So you change the vocabulary, or you use, rather than a standard word, use your thesaurus to replace that word with something that means the same thing but is a little less prevalent in the people's vocabulary. That's it. So you just get a little highbrow. And actually, if you put into here most any sort of academic text, most academic text is very purple and red in these sort of detectors. They're very, very far away from what AI could write, which is also interesting. Plot twist. I love this one. I inserted a sentence. My grandmother told me to dance joyfully after retaining a qualified professional.
And there's an adverb in there, joyfully. I think you could do it all with the adverb.
Adverb detection, yes.
Yeah,
so
you simplify.
You can see this went from red to blue, man. It went way different for GPT-2. GPT-3, look at that. Grandmother was not expected. Qualified, retaining, joyfully, not expected. I colored that up. That would defeat detection. One sentence. Lorem, because we tested that earlier. All I did here was threw in 8 lorem terms, just randomly throughout the text. That defeated it for GPT-2. GPT-3, you can see that the lorem stands out, with all the purple. And, it's just, it just colors that up. I mean, there's no way this could have been done that way. And that you don't have to insert it visibly, by the way, for those that understand a little darker techniques. It can be there, but not be there and defeat detection. And the last one is misspelling. I just misspelled some of the words. It's not expecting misspellings. So.
Yeah, I think my favorite tactic is just adverbs.
Yeah, and you can see here, this doesn't detect misspellings well either. So you can combine a lot of different techniques, and it doesn't take long. It doesn't take a lot of work to defeat this. The game would be afoot. If Google says, hey, we're detecting stuff, we would be, if you're using AI, you would be testing to detect what thresholds they're detecting. And a few days later, you would have something that defeated it. It's not hard. So I don't understand why people are all worried about whether Google is or could detect this stuff. It's very beatable. It's very, very beatable.
Well, and like you said before, I don't think they're doing it. But, if you want to score well on these detectors, because that's something you're being judged against in your content writing, then yeah, I would just go heavy on the adverbs and you'll probably score well.
Exactly. So, having played with all of this fun stuff, so, we know that AI content is predictable. It has to be. Google's not likely to be detecting it anytime soon. That's my opinion, because again, I don't see it being a problem, and Google's not seeing it being a problem because they're ranking, this stuff. And generally speaking, most of the AI content, even the stuff that I use, I modify or I focus it a bit so that it is better tuned than just what the default is coming out.
I'm going to put this out there because I bet you eventually one or two of these AI content tool companies will have an employee watch this video. It would be really cool if you had a mode that would give preferential picks to unusual adverbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so go ahead and give us detection beating roles with those adverb strategies, or give a handful of different strategies and let people pick one. But yeah, it'd be cool if you could have a heavy adverb mode that would do that.
Yeah, or you could also do the same thing by, giving you a toggle switch that, every 20th word, it can't choose one of the top 50. The probability distribution has to exclude the top 50 and then roll from below that, because then that changes it up as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's a brilliant idea right there too. And
once you adjust, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, make it so that you can pick that distribution spread. So it should be, if you haven't picked a top 1,000 word within, 30 words, force one.
Yeah. Throw something in there, make it happen. And, if they do begin detecting content that's written by AI, it's very easy to beat. This doesn't say that these two, particularly GPT-2 and the GPT-3 detectors that I used here are what Google's using, but it's the same idea. You're trained on a model, you look to see how closely the output conforms to what the model, would predict. So you just have to do things that the model wouldn't. And there's a threshold at which Google says, oh, yeah, that's good. This one, if it's above a certain score, it's bad. If it's below a certain score, it's good. That's all we have to do is just modify it a little bit, and it doesn't take a lot of energy to do it.
Well, I'm sad that I don't have any AI content projects in the short term on my plate because I want to do the adverb trick.
Well, you can throw it into other projects that you're working on.
Yeah, it'll come up eventually. I'm going to remember that though.
Yeah. So do we have any questions on the YouTube?
Well, I want to hear from Clint. Clint, what do you think of all this?
I mean, I don't mess around with the AI content beyond stuff that I do for link building, like because it's easy to get lazy, relevant, air quotes content for to drop my anchors in. So, but beyond that, I don't really have any other opinion because I don't use it to write real, like for money sites. Like Lee hinted at it earlier, SEOs, and I'm using air quotes again, want to use this content for their money sites, and they're crying because it's not optimized. Well, it was never designed for that. It was never designed to totally replace people. It's designed to help you write your own good content. So I've never, honestly, I've just never leveraged it for money site stuff. So I can't say one way or another whether it's indexing or not, because beyond getting it crawled, I don't really care.
Well, let's go. Is Google penalizing your link building using AI content because it's detecting all of this?
My rankings are going up, so I doubt it.
I'm still glad you said that because I think that's a really good point too, because I don't do a lot of AI content generation. I'm kind of leaning towards the viewpoint that content isn't king and you should be able to rank pages no matter what's on them. And so I tend to lean that way. And yeah, it's interesting though. I like these AI tools. I don't want to dig on them. But I haven't had an opportunity to use them for a lot of things yet. And so I'm kind of in the same boat as Clint. They make a lot of sense for a tier 2, tier 3 type of thing. But I have a hard time imagining using them for money site main content that I have a harder time figuring out. But I know people who do it and succeed. I've talked to people who do it and have succeeded doing it. So I know it's possible. I just don't know how I feel about it. It's weird.
I started using AI content because I couldn't find good writers that would write. I would give instructions. Here's my topic. Here are the headings that I want to use within it. Here's my keywords and entities and things that I want to focus on the particular article. And they go write me 12 to 1400 words on this or whatever the instructions were. And what I got back was garbage. And I didn't care whether I paid $3 an article or $100 an article or anywhere whatever. It was always the same. I knew that I was going to have to SEO it, but I started getting so much garbage back that I started playing with AI content. And I found that, I have templates and things like that I can utilize that give me very, very good, pretty damn well optimized SEO articles on topic. And then I just tweak them a little bit. I'll run them through like Grammarly to make sure that the grammar's clean and everything else. But other than that, I can take them and make them work. But I have to work. I can't just say, write me a DUI lawyer Los Angeles article. You have to, give it more structure than that. But it works. It can work for any of the tiers as well. So I always found AI content is a good base. And if it's not quite optimized the way that I want, I'll put it in, I'll run my reports, I'll say, ooh, I'm missing a few things on that. And I'll go back and tweak it and then, release it out to Google and see what they think of it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't argue that because honestly, I don't think I'm experienced enough with AI content to argue against it. So yeah, definitely. Somebody mentioned in addition to adverbs that emojis are another trick.
Yes.
So that's an interesting one. There's a comment for Carolyn that she's got to give sneak peeks or people's gonna riot. So you got to share details on these episode teasers. Let's see. Let's see. See, GPT-3 and future advanced algos will be a standard tool for writers and editors. Yeah, brings up interesting problems like, will people want to read that content? If there's a flood of, just scripts dumping out endless pages of things, is that read worthy? It gets weird at that point. It might be interesting when the AI is authoring full, sci-fi novels with unique AI generated plot twists. It's gonna be bizarre when that happens. Hard to know how to feel about that because it's kind of like the death of an artist, but unlimited art. This is the thing about detectors. They give false positives on human written content too. Yeah, there's a lot of collateral damage if they tried to use it. GPT-3 results probably come from all of Kyle Roof's sites. Yeah, he pulls a lot of shenanigans. He's known for that.
I still see a lot of websites where, people have templates and, the templates will have, widgets or, other things in the footer that still has the lorem ipsum because people didn't change it. They wrote their articles and stuff like that, but it still has that standard lorem language, even on a real site. So, because that's boilerplate lorem, it does appear on a lot of pages, even unintentionally.
Yeah, someone says it all has to be fact checked anyway. Light editing and your gold. I think that's an optimistic rule. I wish that were true, but probably not the case. Where does AI pull content from? Its training set, usually the model.
And there's some interesting things now. Like some people are using the GPT-3 and they're just feeding it a training set of, let's say, lawyer websites. So it gets to be an expert model at writing lawyer content, for example. So people are taking and defining the training website to, narrow fields to get much more accurate, topically relevant AI content, which is an interesting application of it. You'd still have to, certainly fact check it. You'd still have to, depending on the subtopic within there, if it's technical enough, it'll pass. If it's not technical enough, then it's possible it could be detected.
Yeah, there's a question of AI versus spin. And for a high quality output of either, it would be pretty difficult to distinguish between the two. And so, both have gotten better. And I think both have incorporated AI at this point. So I think you could call the advanced spinners AI at this point as well. So yeah, I'd say they're two different AI techniques at this point.
Well, spinner's taking a given word and finding synonyms for it, whereas the AI is taking previous context and figuring out what the next word will be. So they're a little bit different in that regard. But you can play around with, if you took AI generated content and stuck it through a spinner, you might choose synonyms that are less common, and that might be enough to uniqueify it to avoid detection. But again, we don't know what the detection threshold would be, because in any human written article, even if we go back, let me see if I go back here to the Quora, there's still a lot of green in this. So, ones and tells you is common, tells you exactly, that's common, how much, these are all predicted words based on the previous context. There's a lot of green. This bar is always going to be large with respect to, prediction. It's the other accent pieces, some things you can't get away from.
Yeah, the really advanced spinners, they write the spin tags for you, and they can spin whole phrases and sub phrases, and they can, do all the subject predicate swapping, and they're actually doing NLP as part of the spin tags writing. And it all comes down to what are the clues you're giving for the authoring, and it comes from the training sets, and it comes from the clues you give. And I'd say, the distinguishing characteristics between the two are not as far apart as they used to be.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say go with what's working best for you.
Yeah.
So that looks like all the questions we have for today. So we'll call it a show there. And I want to thank everyone. Sorry we're a day late. I was traveling yesterday, and that's why we had to do it a day late. So we'll go back to Tuesdays next week. Actually, I think I'm traveling back on a Tuesday too. So it might be a Wednesday next week as well. I'll have to double check. But it'll go back to regular Tuesdays soon. But given that, I want to thank everyone for putting up with the weird timing, and we will see you next time.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.